Hey everybody, Tyler down here at Emerald City Guitars with my pick of the day, this 1939 Gibson J-35. Now I was really blessed to come to know the late Bill Collings before he passed, and one of the first conversations I ever had with him, it was over the phone, and after about 15 minutes the subject switched to pre-war flat top guitars. And of course Gibson and Martin were the big players back then, and one thing that Bill said was, Martins are some of the best made guitars of all time, but Gibson had a really special place in his heart because you could tell that the people making them had fun doing so. They weren't afraid to experiment or try new things. They weren't too set in their ways. And when this guitar came in, I immediately thought back to that conversation. And I found that to be true in pretty much every vintage Gibson that I've seen since we had that conversation. But this guitar in particular really typified that sentiment. So yeah, it's a J-35. They came out in 1936 at the height of the Depression. Prior to this, the only jumbo-sized flat-top guitar that Gibson had in their line was just the regular jumbo model, which was $60. So it became clear at that point to Gibson that people were actually on board with this jumbo-style body. They just couldn't really afford to spend $60 at that time. So in 1936, Gibson came out with two new models, one at each side of the price spectrum. The first of which was the Advanced Jumbo, very, very fancy model at $80, so more expensive than the Jumbo. And the second model was this, the J-35, at appropriately $35. The original production of the J-35 ran from 1936 to 1942, at which time it was replaced by the J-45. They've reissued, of course, both models since then, but the original run of J-35s did not overlap at all with the J-45s. So in order to sell a jumbo-sized guitar at a cheaper price, they had to drop some of the fancier appointments that were found on the original Jumbo model. First of which, the sunburst on the sides and back were done away with. Of course, this is just the natural mahogany. Neck binding was also a thing of the past. So the original Jumbo model had a pearl inlay on the headstock for the Gibson script. This, of course, is just the cheaper silkscreen. The expensive Grover G98 tuners were replaced with these 3-on-a-plate Klusons that were much cheaper. So all around, the guitars were just built a little bit lighter. The tops were much thinner compared to the Jumbo model. Going along with that, the braces also almost exclusively stopped being scalloped. So you'll notice I said almost exclusively, and that's one of the reasons why this model is so cool. There was such a widespread inconsistency of features, specifically in the bracing. Now, of course, this is an X-brace guitar. As we know, our X-brace runs from right around here down and opposite there. Now, on just about every modern or classic design of X-brace guitars, on this lower treble side of the X-brace here, there are two braces that run orthogonally to this X-brace across this way, and they're called lower face braces. Some people call them tone bars. And like I said, almost every classic design, there are two tone bars. A lot of J-35s did have two, but there are also a number that were made with three lower face braces, and this is one of those models. Now, these tend to be a little bit more desirable than the two brace versions, just because, like I said, they're pretty lightly built already, and this top needs all the help it can get. So in addition to the varying number of lower face braces, the profile of the braces also varied greatly. You'd see two lower face braces that were scalloped in some cases, you'd see three that were scalloped, you'd see three that were tapered, three that were straight, two that were tapered, or two that were straight. There were just tons of combinations of brace profiles and configurations in the J-35. And there really wasn't any sort of chronological rhyme or reason to when they did what. It seems like it was really just whatever the guys felt like doing that day. And that's why getting one of these guitars, you don't really know exactly what you have until you get a mirror and a flashlight inside and see what's going on with the braces. So having these three lower face braces is actually pretty uncommon for 1939. They're mostly phased out by 1937 or 38. Another strange feature on this one is that it has a pretty pronounced V-neck, which was also a feature that most people say ended in 38. But the sharp V still is here on this model, which is a 1939 factory order number, which just goes to show the variance that these models really had in all sorts of features. So obviously this guitar has just been played a ton throughout its life. At some point it had a trapeze tailpiece that was added here, which is a pretty common modification. Once the bridges would start to lift, rather than pulling them off and re-gluing them, guys would just add a trapeze tailpiece to keep the tension on the bridge down towards the top. It has since been removed, of course, and the holes filled very professionally. So this is the original bridge on the guitar. However, it has been thinned out just slightly, probably to delay the need for a neck reset. It is totally substantial, however. There has been a new saddle made, as well as new bridge pins. But other than that, it's a totally straight, awesome vintage guitar. It just really, it exemplifies everything that's cool about pre-war flat tops and really vintage guitars in general. It is impossible to put down. It sounds amazing. So let's mic it up and I can show you what I'm talking about. So there you have it, 1939 Gibson J-35, available down here at Emerald City Guitars. Come on down, check it out for yourself. We'll see you next time.